President Bola Tinubu has addressed a joint session of the National Assembly as part of this year's Democracy Day celebration. President Tinubu told the 469 Assembly members his administration's economic reforms are already yielding results. On national unity and mass defection to the ruling APC from the PDP, the president says the country isn't heading down the path of a one-party state. The president paid tributes to Nigeria's founding fathers, including MKO Abiola, Kudirat Abiola, Shehu Yaradua, and the Ogoni Nine, who were posthumously granted national honors and pardons.
In the past, nor any instance at the present, and at no future junction, shall I view the notion of one-party state as good for Nigeria. I've never attempted to alter any political party registration with INEC. We cannot blame anybody seeking to bail out of a sinking ship, even without a life jacket. We are already seeing results. The GDP grew by 3.4% in 2024, with Q4 hitting 4.6%. The highest quarter growth in over a decade. Inflation is easing gradually, steadying the price of food staples like rice and beans.
As Nigeria marks another Democracy Day, the residents of the late Chief MKO Abiola in Ikeja, Lagos, once again became a gathering point for dignitaries, activists, and well-wishers, reflecting on the nation's democratic journey. Among those who spoke was Lekon Abiola, one of the sons of the late politician, who expressed hope that President Bola Tinubu will ensure the family receives their father's entitlements. New Century's lead correspondent, Bernard Akere, has more.
On Toyin Street in Ikeja, the atmosphere was reflective yet hopeful. Inside the Abiola residence, the legacy of the late Chief Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola lived on. His life, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to democracy honored by visitors. Tributes were paid, and guests acknowledged the weight of June 12, a day that symbolizes the nation's struggle for democracy and justice.
It's a day that reflected the dream of what we want Nigeria to be. It's a day of unity, it's a day of peace, it's a day that everybody came out together to come and vote for an individual and that cut across all divides of tribe and religion. One thing that we are still battling with in this country.
He believed that he needed to serve the masses, and he demonstrated it. That was why people voted for him. They believe in his campaign slogans. They believe in his mantra. They believe in everything. Hope 93 and farewell to poverty.
Representing the Lagos State Governor, Chief Press Secretary Boyega Akushile reaffirmed the state's commitment to democratic values, citing Abiola as a beacon of hope and resilience.
Without democratic experience, there can never be, a sustainable development. A sustainable development is what every one of us aspire for in the country. That's his message.
In keeping with tradition, guests awaited the arrival of a direct member of the Abiola family. When Lekon Abiola finally arrived, his address struck a chord, deeply personal, yet national in tone.
One of the reasons why he built his house here, and they asked him, why didn't you go and build your house in VI or Ikoyi? And he said that he built it in Ikeja so that people could easily come and see him. That would be difficult for people to be going to VI or Ikoyi to go and see him.
Lekon Abiola also spoke on the state of the family's estate, describing the challenges the family continues to face while reaffirming his father's commitment to Nigeria's unity and freedom.
For the apology to mean something, maybe the federal government needs to pay back what they owe our family financially, and apart from that, even to give the family some of the benefits of a former president of Nigeria. There's definitely a clear dispute because one branch of the family has hijacked everything, and we have made it clear to them that it cannot continue, that we cannot, it's not going to happen. So we are talking, where there are some cases in court, there are some Alake of Egbaland, Oba of Lagos, they are trying to to mediate the matter. So the efforts are ongoing.
Other dignitaries who paid homage to the family highlighted how the lessons from Abiola's life and the events of June 12 remain relevant to today's political leadership.
Calling it MK Abiola Day is like saying Martin Luther King Day. My view is that it's very important that we do two things. Number one is to recognize that this Fourth Republic is a product of June 12. Number two is to then be able to recognize that we must be able to dissemble and differentiate between institution building and governance of the day.
Some have asked that he be recognized and viewed as a former president, while others have asked that his final resting place be recognized as the center of democracy in the country. Whichever way you look at it, the unanimous agreement, however, is that the beliefs of democracy for the late Chief MKO Abiola be held sacred and that Nigeria's democracy continue to thrive. In Lagos for News Central, Bernard Akede.
Is our democracy thriving? Well, to help us discuss the significance of June 12, I'm joined now by Patrick Utomi. He's a Nigerian professor of political economy and a former presidential candidate. He joins us virtually. But with me in the studio is Tonya Cole, former APC Rivers State gubernatorial candidate and an advocate for good governance. Gentlemen, thank you so much for giving us your time. I'll start with you, sir. 26 years of unbroken democracy. Have we used it well?
I would say that it's work in progress. The first aspect of it is that the fact that we have 26 years, we have to take it. But have we gotten to where we ought to be? I believe we are not. Can Nigeria do a lot better with democracy? I believe that we can. But are we on the right path as far as the progress to democratic rule is? I would say yes.
Okay, Prof, let me come to you. I would want to ask where we are at with democracy, but of course, I don't know, but I believe you will share a bit of optimism as well. However, I want to take on an aspect of the president's speech. There's been a lot of concern about the country sliding into a one-party state, and the president took time out to address that concern. However, is it really possible for the party and the president to convince Nigerians that the intentions are genuine when it seems like the president is taking pleasure in the disarray of other political parties? How appropriate is it for that comment to come on a presidential speech on a democracy day when you juxtapose that to his assertions that he wants, there is not going to be a one-party state. He is working to ensure that does not happen. And then right above that, he says he takes pleasure in the disarray of other parties.
Well, all these speculations about this person's conduct and that person's conduct, they don't really get to the heart of the matter. What we need to deal with is that there is a crisis of elite in Nigeria. What shocks me is that our country is in very deep trouble, and the elite can't get together and sit and talk about where we should be going as a country. Many years ago, I came as a young undergraduate in Nigeria to the United States when Jimmy Carter was running for president in 1986. And I recall how he described the state of things. He described it as a moral economy of a war. They were not at war, but he called the state of a moral economy of war. If you look at the insecurity in our country, if you look at the level of hunger in the land, I just saw statistics that suggest that more than 70% of people who live in rural Nigeria are in chronic poverty. Now, if you take all of that and politicians are quarreling over whether people are rushing to one party or the other, it's simple. Because the cost of governance is so high, because the political class appropriates so much of the Commonwealth to themselves, the business of elite bargaining to share booty leads people to try and move to one particular party that is in control so that they can get their share of the booty. It's not a matter of whether somebody is destabilizing or not.
Yeah, I agreed. Sorry to interrupt, Prof. I agreed that the president, even though he's the president, he's also a politician. But the concern here is the appropriateness for a Democracy Day speech, for that aspect to become, to be necessary in a speech commemorating Democracy Day.
Well, because a lot of people are talking about it, and so the natural tendency for a politician is to respond to what he thinks is current in public opinion. So it doesn't really bother me whether it's appropriate or inappropriate.
All right.
What bothers me that democracy is not as strong as it should be, and that we need to do something desperately.
Okay, I'll come back to you on some of the things that we need to do differently. But, sir, I also don't want to ask you about, democracy and how it's going and all of that. I want to talk about something more concrete, and that's the posthumous pardon that he gave to the Ogoni 9, which is commendable, however you look at it. Long overdue, a lot of persons have said. But is the government doing enough about the situation in Ogoni land and the Niger Delta? In the last administration, I remember there was an attempt to restore some kind of order, but that seemed to have gone on the radar as well. Talk to us about that.
Okay. So when we take issues like the Ogoni 9 and all, you have a lot of grievances that hopefully now have begun to be put to rest. On the one hand, you will find people who will support it. On the other hand, you will find people who will not support it. But what the issue is that for as long as this had not been addressed, the Ogoni people and the Ogoni land as a place had always seemed to just struggle a bit. So it was necessary to address. And the first aspect of it, what the president has done in this instance, I think is commendable because it just puts to rest a long argument on both sides of, do I support it, don't I support it? Let's put that to rest so that the people can move forward. Now, there are people who feel that in all of this, in the struggle and all with Ogoni land, with Kensariwo on one side and the others on the other side, that this whole issue of has Ogoni oil been kept back for I don't know how many years and all of that, well over, it's going to 35 or 40 years. So I think the president has done the right thing as far as this issue is concerned. Now the next thing is how do we move forward? The Niger Delta as a whole requires a look into. And the reason being this, for many years, Niger Delta has been supporting the Nigerian dream, the Nigerian vision and all of that, but still feel, even today, that they are not as involved in the process that you call the new Nigeria, this Nigeria that we're trying to get to. And I think we need to begin to address some of those grievances of what minorities look like and how should they be involved in Nigeria's move forward, and that is the next step.
Yeah, before I move on to the Prof, I want to just ask, it's been 2 years since this administration has been in power. In your view, have they done enough to pay attention to the concerns of the Niger Delta, especially the cleanup aspect? Like I said, an attempt was made last year. Not last year, in the previous administration, but there hasn't been some real comments about what's going on in Niger Delta.
No. Okay. So one area that progress has been made, right, is that you're not having as much spills, as much what you call fire and all of that, and that is very important. So you don't have the black suit that is going on. So what the government has done in the last couple of years is ensure that illegal refining and all of those things have come, more or less, it's come down, and it's come down a lot. And that's what used to lead to the oil spills and the environmental degradation. Now, that is another 20-year project, and it's something that has to be done step by step. But the first thing is, can we stop all the illegal refineries and fire in the area? That they've been able to do.
All right, Prof, let me come to you. This is an area I believe you'll be able to talk to us a lot more. A bit of fact-checking here. The president in his speech expressed a lot of optimism about, the direction that the economy is going. In his speech, I'll try and see if I can quote, we're already seeing results. The GDP grew by 3.4% in 2024, with the fourth quarter hitting 4.6%, the highest quarter of growth in over a decade. Inflation is easing gradually, steadying the price of food staples like rice and beans. And then he went on to talk about how our foreign reserves have increased a five-fold and that the Nigerian naira exchange rate has stabilized. Is the president's stats representative of reality?
Well, long ago somebody said that, there are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics. What this means is that with statistics, you can say anything you want to say. The statements made are not necessarily incorrect. The question is, what goal are you pursuing? And how do these particular developments lead you towards the particular goal that you are pursuing? You see, the naked truth is that many African countries have focused on stabilization. You get some barrage, some harassment about your exchange rate, your this, that. And that produces, usually, when you deal properly with stabilization, it does produce some results that look good. GDP begins to look, but you have to take a total picture. This is why, with all the stabilization we've done since SAP in Africa, we still have made very little progress. Poverty continues to cripple us. And part of the reason is because the elite that govern do not think of the whole country. They think of their transactions and their small clique. And the growth that is produced is ganashade, if you will, by them. I just said that I heard statistics that suggest that more than 70% of people who live in rural Nigeria are now living in chronic poverty. Now, you can have any statistic you want. If that is your reality, and it's easy to project that is what is happening, when you have header farmer clashes that have been so deep and so severe that in some parts of our country, people have not been to their farms in 5 years. Many of them have even forgotten how to farm. They don't have any other way of producing anything. So they have become, people who are dependent and are really living at levels that destroy their dignity as human persons. What I have not seen in strategy is a massive focus on how we create wealth and production involving the broad population. I've talked a lot about what you can do with ensuring security and then providing for agriculture that is returning very quickly and instantly and developing value chains and moving that forward. I don't see us exactly focusing on this. First and foremost, we have to deal with the insecurity problem. It is not something that fell from hell. It is something that was created by Nigerian politicians. The solutions are within us to make happen.
All right.
I think, however, we must begin with policing that is local, that is state, and so on, layers of policing. But the base level of policing must be the local community. When we get the local community to police the place officially with arms, with everything, then you can create clusters for production.
Okay.
So on and so forth.
I mean, the dream is always for things to be better. But your submission did raise some questions that I would like, as a chieftain of the APC, I would also think it's appropriate to ask. The president's speech covered, for me, it could be other areas, I think the economy, politics, and honors. Those are the three major aspects. Correct. No mention was made of the security situation in this country. Do you think some acknowledgement of the pains that people in the Northeast, Northwest, and other parts of this country is going through would have been appropriate, more appropriate than trying to explain what is politics to the people?
Okay, so this insecurity has been with us for a very long time, and it has to be dealt with. And so I agree with you that a reference to security or insecurity would have been appropriate, and that would have been good. But I suspect, even as Pat said, Professor Otomi just said, that a security solution is a political solution, and I'll explain. What I see in the democracy of Nigeria moving forward and how we have to begin to work on what Nigeria should look like moving forward, right, is where you are having regional autonomy. Okay, the South, because we're different tribes in Nigeria, and the way we operate in the North is different from how we operate in the South, is different from how we operate in the West. Policing and security is a lot more effective when you deal with it locally. What we're seeing here is an attempt to deal with security holistically from a national level, and I don't think it's going to work. And it's time that we have to begin to change this, both from the kinetic position and from just general...
But doesn't this give an impression that there doesn't seem to give... this administration doesn't seem to be prioritizing security as much as it is doing the economy? And then experts would argue that if there is insecurity, no matter what you do with the economy, it's still going to fall flat on its face.
So I don't know that they are not prioritizing security as much as the other administration was. What I do know is that you are seeing a lot more in terms of the military activity. We're not, I guess, and I've always said this, one of the shortcomings that we should do a lot more as an administration is communicate better. I think that in that area, there's a shortcoming. But as to what is going on and whether or not these activities against bandits and all of that is ongoing, I know from a personal perspective. I have friends who are in the military. I have friends who are out in the forefront. I have friends who are out in the forest. I know that this is continuing. It hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped at all. Probably the administration has decided that they don't want to speak too much about it. I don't know. They would have to answer on that.
Fair enough. Prof, one more for you. You've been a very loud advocate of the people and the welfare and, of course, pushing democracy in this country. So I would want you to speak to Nigerians on this very important commemoration. What would be your key message? Let me know, put words. Just what would be your key message today to Nigerians as we brace up for another 2 years of this current administration and pushing our democracy?
Well, my contribution in this regard is that we should recognize that democracy is about the people. The government of the people, for the people, by the people, in the great old Lincolnian definition. There is a very unfortunate sense in many circles, including deep political research circles, that our democracy has become a government of politicians, for politicians, by politicians. That there is a disconnect between state and society. And that because this is the case, the people, kind of feel alienated from government. And there is a weaponization of poverty, which is their condition. And so I would like to see politics touch the people in terms of the quality of life they live, in terms of everything about the dignity of the human person. And if politicians can manage to think less of themselves, spend less of public resources on themselves and more on the people. I go back to this country. I don't want to go to 5 places and give example. In the 1960s in Nigeria, politicians were simple people. Members of the Federal House came from different places. Tonya is from Port Harcourt there. Onyeka Onwenu used to talk about her father, who was a parliamentarian from there, was a school principal, and would come to Lagos and do his job and return to being a principal in an Anitonia High School in Port Harcourt and feel the people, know what the people didn't have money. In fact, she used to joke that her father, as an MP, would come and borrow money from her mother, the trader. Unless we are able to feel the people and live the people, work for the people, democracy isn't working.
I guess I should just give you 30 seconds as well to give a quick message.
Okay, so I thank God for June 12 and what it means, but it also drives the point that since then till today, the type of democracy that we practice in Nigeria ought to change. And I think it's time that we look at our democracy and begin to make a democracy Nigeria style that works for Nigerians and for the people of Nigeria. We're not there yet.
Democracy Nigeria style. I like that. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
You're welcome.
Prof, thank you as well for giving us your time. We appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Coming up still tonight, Nigerians protest economic hardship as the country commemorates June 12 Democracy Day. We have that story and much more after the break. Stay with us. Glad you're still with us. We told you earlier that President Bola Tinubu outlined the gains of his administration, which includes a more stable economy. This was during his presidential address at a joint session of the National Assembly in commemoration of Democracy Day. My colleague, Sagir Ibrahim, reports from the National Assembly.
Democracy Day address to a joint session of the National Assembly acknowledged the sacrifices of self-governance and the resilience required to sustain it.
I felt a sense of collective accomplishment when I realized how far we had come as a nation.
Reflecting on Nigeria's 26-year journey into civilian rule, President Bola Tinubu praised his predecessor, General Muhammadu Buhari, for officially recognizing June 12, known to many as Nigeria's most credible election. The president seized the opportunity to defend his administration's achievements, especially on the economy.
We are already seeing results. The GDP grew by 3.4% in 2024, with Q4 hitting 4.6%, the highest quarter of growth in over a decade. Inflation is easing gradually, steadying the price of food staples like rice and beans.
In response to growing speculations about the APC's alleged attempts to steer Nigeria toward a one-party state and suppress dissent, the president says he holds no such aspirations.
I've never attempted to alter any political party registration with INEC. We cannot blame anybody seeking to bail out of a sinking ship, even without a life jacket.
In their remarks, presiding officers of the National Assembly promised to keep supporting the executive arm of government.
Democracy is not a gift, it is a trust that we must protect. So let us preserve the memory of June 12. I respectfully urge Mr. President that we consider the establishment of a June 12 museum, a living archive where the stories, artifacts, struggles and sacrifices of our leaders and the democratic movement will be housed, preserved and taught.
We launched an 8-point legislative agenda, fully aligned with the Renewed Hope agenda. Within 2 years, we have reviewed 2,263 bills.
Lawmakers from both chambers also reacted to the president's address.
June 12 is the real day of democracy, because this is the day in which democracy was destroyed, and now we have been able to come back strongly. When we debated the issue of that honor for Humphrey Mosu, it was defeated at the Senate, and we were not happy about it. He deserves to be honored as a hero of that election.
I want to urge all young Nigerians to please do not get tired, do not get wearied. The struggle of our togetherness, a struggle for our generation, and a struggle for our children's generation.
The highlight of the session was the president's tribute to both fallen and living heroes of Nigeria's democracy, including MKO Abiola, Kudirat Abiola, Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, Professor Humphrey Mosu, and the Ogoni Nine, among others, who were posthumously honored and granted presidential pardons.
President Bola Tinubu, in his address to the Joint National Assembly, seized the opportunity to once again highlight his administration's efforts to revive the economy, clarify his stance on concerns about Nigeria tilting towards a one-party state, and honor the heroes who fought for the country's democracy. But the question on the minds of many remains, are ordinary Nigerians truly better off. From the National Assembly in Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
And in Edo State, Governor Monday Okpeholo has urged Nigerians to reflect on the significance of June 12 and recommit to the ideals of democracy, justice, and unity. In his Democracy Day message, the governor honored the sacrifices of patriots like Chief MKO Abiola, describing June 12, 1993 as a defining moment in Nigeria's democratic journey. He reaffirmed his administration's dedication to people-focused governance through the SHINE agenda, targeting improvements in security, health, education, and infrastructure.
June 12 reminds us that democracy is not just a system of government. It is a call to justice, unity, and purpose. I want to commend a true hero of our time, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. His leadership is rooted in sacrifice and long-term thinking. For that, the same courage that defined Chief MKO Abiola, despite the odds against him, Abiola stood for the people, for democracy, and for Nigerians, where hope is thrive.
The entire Bonny Kingdom stood still as royalties and dignitaries trooped into the island to celebrate King Edward Asimini William Dapper Tepol's 60th birthday. News Centro's Biola Festus brings us the sights and sounds from Bonny Kingdom.
It is a day of glamour and color, with traditional displays filling the atmosphere with the ancient Ibani rhythm, cheers, and chanting. Different groups took turns showcasing diverse aspects of the Bonny culture, with the youths leading the charge. The people of Grand Bonny Kingdom in Rivers State rolled out the drums with fanfare in honor of their king, whom they described as illustrious.
Celebration of culture, celebration of style, celebration of excellence. The Black Monarch at 60 will give God the glory.
Bonny is peaceful. And even though at the time that this current king was appointed, he was very young, he was just 31. But God gave him a lot of wisdom that whatever challenges that the community has to face, he was able to handle it wisely.
It is the 60th anniversary of His Royal Majesty Edward Asimili William Dapper Pepo III, Perekule the 11th, Amayanabo and natural ruler of Grand Bonny Kingdom. The day started with a Thanksgiving service at the iconic St. Stephen's Cathedral.
In these 60 years, each day has been so rich. No matter the challenges, God has been so good.
In his goodwill message, suspended Rivers State Governor Similala Yifubara commended the king for his exemplary leadership, evident in the developments of the Ibani people.
We are committed to serving the great people of Bonny. Everybody will not appreciate your style, but what is important, when you know that what you're doing is right, you are convinced and you are sure that 25 years, 30 years, if you are placed in any box and you are asked the question, you can defend your action. That's what makes you a man.
For the king, the welfare of the Bonny Kingdom will continue to inform his actions.
This celebration is not just about me. It is about all of us, the people of Grand Bonny Kingdom. It is about our shared history, our culture, our values, and the future we are building together. I've always understood that leadership is not a position of privilege, but a duty of service.
60!
Other royals present at the ceremony described the rulership pattern of the Perekule as one worthy of emulation.
His behavior, his character, the way he does things, the way he keeps himself outside politics and everything that they are doing in Rivers State, you want to admire him and also want to be like him.
It's an ancient kingdom. It's been for centuries, and our custom is very tight. From the political age now, we have so many parties who are from Boni. Call it whatever, call it PDP or SCA or UTC. But we all hold one thing in common. When they have their problems, it's here that they can. So that's why Boni is unique.
We love you, Ali. The Diamond Jubilee celebration of the Boni monarch continues for the rest of the week, featuring hospital visitations, medical outreaches, project commissionings, and charity donations. In ancient Grand Boni Kingdom, for News Central, Biola Festus.
Outside Nigeria, South Africa rescue teams recovered more bodies on Thursday, days after heavy rains and strong winds battered the Eastern Cape province as the death toll continues to rise. The bitterly cold winter storm struck the largely rural and underdeveloped province on Monday, causing a river to burst its banks and submerge homes, with several makeshift dwellings toppled. The worst hit area was around the city of Mata, about 800 kilometers south of Johannesburg, where residents picked through the mud 3 days later to salvage what they could from their destroyed homes. And to one of the biggest stories today, an Indian police chief has confirmed that a man survived the air crash that killed at least 200 people. Ahmedabad Police Commissioner G.S. Malik said that the survivor, who is a British national, was on seat 11A on the London-bound Boeing 787 flight. Indian media said that they had spoken to the survivor in hospital, who said the crash happened so fast, just about 30 seconds after takeoff. India's Civil Aviation Authority said there were 242 people aboard, including 2 pilots and 10 cabin crew. Perpetua joins me now for business stories. Privatization calls growing.
Yes, that's what we see. And of course, this is coming from some Nigerians that are concerned. You can talk about the oil marketers, and you can also talk about the organized private sector. They are all concerned. And the question is why? But you'll get the answer after this timeout. Stay with us. Oil marketers and the organized private sector are demanding the immediate privatization of Nigeria's state-owned refineries following fresh operational failures. These calls come just months after the relaunch of the Port Harcourt and Warri refineries, which cost a combined $2.4 billion to rehabilitate. The 60,000 barrels per day Port Harcourt refinery went dormant within 6 months, while the Warri plant stopped operating barely a month after restarting. Responding, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority says any privatization move would require the Federal Executive Council's approval. However, silence from the NNPC and the Petroleum Ministry has deepened public concern over the sustainability of state-led refinery investments and Nigeria's long-standing reliance on fuel imports. And moving on, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited reported a profit after tax of 748 billion naira and total revenue of 5.891 trillion naira for April 2025. This is according to its latest monthly report. The company also disclosed 4.225 trillion naira in statutory payments between January and March. Crude oil and condensate output averaged 1.6 million barrels per day, with natural gas production at 7,473 standard cubic feet per day. Petrol availability in NNPC retail stations was at 54% and upstream pipeline uptime stood at 97%. Key gas infrastructure projects, Obiafo, Bricom, Oben and AKK, have reached 95% and 70% completion respectively. And Nigeria's petrol import bill fell to 1.76 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2025, down from 3.81 trillion naira in the same period of 2024, and that's a 54% year-on-year drop. This is according to the National Bureau of Statistics. The decline also reflects a 47% reduction from the fourth quarter of 2024. The significant decrease is attributed to growing domestic supply from the Dangote refinery, which, despite operating below full capacity, is already contributing a large share of Nigeria's petrol demand. With a 650,000 barrels per day capacity, the refinery's impact signals reduced reliance on imports and improved energy self-sufficiency for Africa's largest economy. And finally, China has announced plans to negotiate and sign a new economic agreement eliminating all tariffs for the 53 African countries. It maintains diplomatic ties, with the move aimed at boosting trade, which will extend duty and quota-free market access beyond the least developed countries to include middle-income African nations. After a high-level meeting in China, China reiterated its commitment to welcoming quality African products. Additional support measures like training and marketing aid will help ensure LDCs such as Mali and Tanzania are not disadvantaged. Analysts say the initiative could significantly benefit countries like South Africa with advanced manufacturing capacity. And that does it for Business News Tonight. Thank you. I am Perpetua Fasamepita. Tonight continues.
Sports is next, and Tunde is here with the latest. We understand the body of success is coming in.
Yeah, we hear that the body of the late Segun Success Olariwaju will be repatriated back to Nigeria on the 17th of June. Don't forget, it's been an argy-bargy between the Nigerian and Ghanaian boxing authorities after he tragically passed away 3 months ago. We're having all that and much more after the break. Hello and welcome to sports. The Nigerian Boxing Board of Control has confirmed that the remains of Nigerian boxer Segun Success Olariwaju will arrive in Nigeria next Tuesday, the 17th of June, ending nearly 3 months of diplomatic and legal processes following his tragic death in Ghana. This was revealed in a letter dated the 10th of June addressed to the president of the Ghana Boxing Authority from the MBBFC president, Dr. Rafiu Ladipo. The letter also stated that the timing would allow the deceased boxer's family to make adequate arrangements, noting that the body would proceed directly to burial upon arrival without requiring mortuary services. The Nigerian Boxing Authorities also requested that Ghana provide the boxer's purse for the fight, as well as compensation for the tragic loss, and also specifically asked that the remains be transported in a casket rather than just a body bag. And here in Lagos, the Ladies in Sports International Conference kicked off its 10th anniversary celebrations in Lagos. This year's event brought together icons, rising stars, and industry leaders committed to advancing gender equity in all spheres of African sports. As one of Africa's foremost platforms for celebrating and empowering women in sports, the conference continues to advocate creative initiatives designed to boost the visibility and growth of women in sports, calling on girls and women across the continent to dream big and break barriers. One of this year's speakers is Super Falcons legend Desire Oparanozie, who believes that women can be a force for change in African and global sports.
Yes, I can't even believe it. You know, a program we just started a couple of years ago, and it's 10 years already. Amazing stuff. Do things by the book, work hard, don't give up. For as long as you're showing up, you're going to get the desired result.
To international football now, Real Madrid today unveiled new signing Trent Alexander-Arnold. He joins former Liverpool midfielder and new Madrid coach Xabi Alonso's project after winning a second Premier League title with his boyhood club Liverpool. The 26-year-old, who signed a deal until 2031, impressed officials at his new club by addressing the audience in Spanish during his presentation. Elsewhere, Kevin De Bruyne has completed his move to Napoli after the Belgian midfielder left Manchester City at the end of the Premier League season. De Bruyne will link up with former Chelsea and Tottenham manager Antonio Conte, who is head coach of the Italian champions. The 33-year-old rejected an offer from Major League Soccer club side Chicago Fire and leaves City after 10 years and 19 trophies. And Brazilian forward Matheus Cunha said his dream had become a reality after completing a £62.5 million move to Manchester United from Wolverhampton Wanderers. Kunuha has signed a 5-year contract with the option of a further 12 months. He scored 31 goals in 76 games in all competitions for Wolves after joining from Atletico Madrid in 2023. And that's all we have on sports. It's back to Felicity for the rest of the news.
On entertainment tonight, as Nigeria commemorates 25 years of democracy, a journey marked by progress, setbacks, resilience, and unwavering hope, this milestone offers a moment of reflection not just on politics, but on the voices that have shaped public consciousness. The creative industry, particularly Nigerian artists, have played a vital role beyond entertainment, using music and culture to spotlight injustice, inspire dialogue, and push for change. Let's take a moment to celebrate the powerful intersection of entertainment and democracy. Let's watch this.
Naija. It's been 25 years since we started this journey of democracy. And even with all the ups and downs, we're still standing strong. Today is another day and a good time to reflect, to hope, and to believe in a better tomorrow. Over the years, Nigerian artists have done more than just entertain us. They have used music to speak out, to challenge the system, to highlight injustice, to push for change. Through the music, the culture, and the voices of the people, we celebrate how far we've come and where we are going. So in the spirit of hope, here is a playlist to lift your mood and remind you, Nigeria goes still better. Happy
International Team. ITT. International Team. International Team. International Team. Oh. International Team. International Team. Kilo dale. Aye ole to yo. Aye oni double. Adura lo le se o. Call on daddy. Adura gbawo. Isu eni badele. Afowo boja. Even if them burn the oil, Nigeria goes survive. I say if them drink the oil, no matter how them try, Nigeria goes survive.
Nigeria jaga jaga, everything scatter scatter. Come on, they suffer suffer. Bossa bossa, one shot in the air.
This land is indeed green. There is a promise that is Nigeria. Just a little time, we'll get there. That's all we have for you tonight. But not before we remind you of our top stories. Nigeria marks 26 years of unbroken democracy amid pockets of protest over lingering economic challenges. President Tinubu honors heroes of June 12, grants posthumous pardon to Ogoni activist Ken Saro-Wiwa and his 8 other allies. One survives as London-bound Air India Flight 171 plane carrying 242 passengers crashes into a residential area. Would like to hear from you. Please share your eyewitness report to the number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on all social media as well. at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. As always, many thanks for watching. Have a good night.